into the word I have. There's this complex that speakers have, because we go to events and like bands get all this like fun thing like confetti guns and lights, and then the speakers walk out on stage and people are like half light. And the audience is like, this little light of mine. And I walk out and you're like, so I'm just telling you, if you all fall asleep in my very short 10-minute time, I might not be hurt at all, because I understand it, but I might be a little sad in my heart. Okay, here we are. We're coming out of Matthew 5, and I'm just diving in because they didn't give me enough time tonight. All right, here we go. Matthew 5:13. Jesus is looking at the crowds. He has just given the entire Sermon on the Mount with the Beatitudes. He's told everybody this great stuff that rocked their world. And then I imagine it like this. He takes a deep breath and he looks at these people who are sitting there. They've been shocked and shook by what he has said. They've cheered, they've gasped, they've looked at their neighbor and said, did he really just say that? And the way I believe it happening is Jesus took a deep breath and looked at their faces, and he knew what was to come. He knew that he saw their faces that day being introduced to him, but one day he would see their faces as he hung on a cross for their sin. And he knew, I have got to solidify something for these people. And he says to them, you are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. See, I believe Jesus Christ desires to define your identity. And he doesn't want to do it in a way that is so complicated you can't grasp it. He took salt because in this point in history, salt was so common to life. There was no refrigerator, right? So when people got meat or fish, what did they do? They covered it in salt because they wanted it to last more than a few hours. And so they knew that salt had the ability to preserve life because it took away decay and bacteria. And so they needed the salt to kill the decay, to stop it, to keep them alive by providing them food long term. And so when he looked out at these people and he said, you are the salt of the earth, they immediately started to think, I stop decay? I keep people alive? Yes, you have the power to stop the decay. Let's think about that in light of this division. If you are the salt of the Southern Territory, then your division has the power to stop the decay. Young ones, when you go to school and you see someone being mean to somebody else, that's what we like to call the decay. You have the ability to stop it. My son is 6 years old. He went to a camp one day, and there's a little boy there who's been his friend since they were 2. And he's got a lot of disabilities, and so he had to leave the school they were at and go somewhere else. So they haven't seen each other in about a year. This little boy doesn't talk really well. He doesn't interact with kids, and so he's a perfect target to be made fun of. And my son watched some bigger kids come and make fun of Everest. And he walked up and he said, Everest is my friend. You mess with him, you mess with me. I said, Caleb, what were you going to do if they tried to mess with you? He said, I didn't have that part figured out. Oh, okay, buddy. Well, what did they do? They said, you know that kid? And Everest goes, you know me? You know my name? And Caleb said, I know you. We've been friends since we were 2. I know him. And they were all so confused. The big boy said, I don't know what's happening. And they just walked off. Sometimes being salt is saying, I am going to stop the decay. Kids, you have the power to do this in your school. But let me take it one step further. Students in this room, kids in this room, you have the power to be salt in your family. You have the ability to stop the decay. Adult children, right? People in this room who still have a parent alive, or, catch this, you have a parent who has died, but you still live under them because you still say, that's just a generational curse in my family that I struggle with that. Oh, that's just something my family has always done. We just talk to each other that way. No. You are the salt of the earth, which means you have the power to stop the decay in your family. You have the power to break the generational curses that have come down. Because not only did salt stop the decay, not only did it provide the ability for life, it makes people thirsty. Salt always makes you thirsty. And the good Lord tells us in Scripture that He is the living water. He is the one who can quench the thirst down deep. When people come in contact with you, they should want more, not of you, but what is coming out of you. The part of God that is flowing out of you. People should come in contact and get thirsty. Are we making the people around us thirsty? I have the privilege of spending time with different corps from now to then and interacting in Huntington. You know you're my favorite right now. I mean, you're my home corps in this division, right? If I have to have a corps, it's Huntington. But here's what I love. I just don't know the rest of you well enough. Here's what I love. Johnny, who was honored tonight, and I know I'm embarrassing you, buddy. I know that one. But Johnny makes people thirsty for the Lord. Part of it is the joy that he carries in the heart of service. He does it, and he does it with not a lot of fanfare. I'm not asking you to go out and shoot off confetti guns and yell and scream and dance. Be you. Be the best you can be, because when you are you as God has defined you, people then see you and desire to know your Creator. You make people thirsty. But Jesus didn't just tell them that they were the salt and that they were the light and leave it at that. He gives them some parameters while he used an everyday item. He then says, but if salt has lost its taste, how shall the saltiness be restored? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. It's a warning. He says, this is who you are called to be. You are called to be the salt of the earth, to stop decay and to make people thirsty for me. But if you don't do that, then your purpose for the kingdom is not being fulfilled, and it's worth nothing. Let me say this really clearly. God is never saying you are worth nothing. He's saying the purpose I have for you, if it goes unfulfilled, is worth nothing. He doesn't say someone else is going to step into your place and do it for you. He says if you aren't doing it, it doesn't get done. And it is like dust on the ground. He continues and he says, you are the light of the world. I love this image, and I have loved this image of light for a long time. When I was a little girl, I went to a camp where they would march us up a hill, and this guy who was supposed to be dressed like Jesus, but it was really just his striped bathrobe, would come out with it, little light, a candle, and they would hand out a bunch of teenagers and kids candles. It was a really smart idea, and they would light them all. And then they would send us marching down this hill with woods surrounding us. Some of you know how I feel about that. With lit candles. And they would say, you are the light of the world. And I can remember as a kid walking down that hill, and I would look around and be astonished at how bright the night became. When I graduated college, I had the opportunity to go to Ethiopia and work in Africa in a hospital. We lived in a compound in the Garagi mountain region. It was down towards the base, the southern portion of Ethiopia. There was no electricity. There was no running water. People lived in mud homes. They looked like giant circles. They'd take their cattle and their chickens and whatever they had in at night. And one night I was walking around the school compound where we stayed. And the headmaster, Tamrat, came out with me, and he was walking. And as we walked towards the edge of this compound, the fields where the cows walked in daytime, I looked out at the mountains, and there was this glow like I had never seen before. And I was staring at it when Tamrat walked up to me, and he said, "What do you look at?" I said, "Tamrat, what is that?" I mean, I know I'm in a country, in a region that has no electricity for hours and hours and hours away. And I asked him, "Is there a fire there?" And he laughed at me and he said, "Do you not in your country have a light?" I said, "I have lights, but they run by electricity, Tamrat. What is that?" And he says, "Here we are Garagi. There is Silti. Silti is the next city." I said, "You still have not answered my question. Why does Silti glow?" He said, "But that is the scripture. Everybody there at night takes a light and puts it outside their house. And you are seeing the light of the city. For people who must travel between Garagi and Silti are in danger if they know not where they can go. But the light of the city tells them, you are safe when you arrive here. Keep your eye on the light." Is that not the most beautiful picture of what it is when you are the light of the world? You are the beacon that holds out a light to people around you, and you say, you are safe when you come here. I am the light of the world, and you are safe in this space. The creator of the universe calls you the light of the world. He continues in this verse, and he says, "A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket or a bushel, but they put it on a stand to give light to everybody." I wish I had time tonight to open up the scriptures and talk through every light verse that is in there, but I don't. They didn't give me enough. I'll talk to them about it later, but we got this. Psalm 18:28 says, "You keep my light burning, and God turns my darkness to light." I know some of you are here and you're like, "Lady, you don't know how dark the darkness is that surrounds me. You don't know how deep the darkness I have already felt." There are kids in this room who struggle because there is such darkness that surrounds them. I am here to tell you that the scriptures say God will turn your darkness into light. I cannot. I wish I could say that and I could walk out and you all just stood up and were like, "Whew, that's it, my darkness is light. Life is great." But I know that's not the truth. So the question is like, okay, how? How is God turning my darkness into light? Well, you know what else he says in here? He says, "Your word is a lamp unto my feet." If you are in the midst of darkness, I encourage you to open the book. And like I always say, if you've never done it before, you got to go all the way, meet Jesus' best friends in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They tell you about him. He says, "I am the light of the world," right? Read about him first. Read the stories to your kids at bedtime. Even if you just want to find something to read them that you think might put them to sleep, that's an okay motivation. Let me read this to you. And you just start reading it. Because the light of the world is a lamp unto our feet. And when we get our feet walking under the protection of God, you know what the scripture says? The darkness cannot overcome the light. Never in the history of the world has a candle gone into a dark place and it was too dark to see the candle. That doesn't happen. If we shut all the lights out in this room right now, you would see every one of those lights. Because the darkness cannot overcome it. But it's our job to walk in the light. John 11:9-10 says a day has 12 hours, doesn't it? So he who walks during the day does not stumble, for he sees the light of the world. But he who walks at night in the darkness, away from the presence of God by choice, stumbles, for he has no light. If you are in a cycle of life where you feel like you are constantly falling down, getting mixed in with the wrong crowd, having the bad thing happen to you, can I challenge you to say, are you walking in the light or are you walking in the darkness? Because if you choose to walk in the darkness, Jesus says, my protection for you is in the light. So it's time to step out of that and into this, so that as you walk, you get to be defined in your identity as God would define you, both the salt and the light of the world. And in that place, you find the abundance and greatness that this book tells you that you have. Continue to read in this little section that God's defining the identity of his followers. He says, in the same way, let your light shine before men. Right? He says, I am the light of the world. You are the light of the earth. Let your light shine before men. As I have told you from this stage before, Satan is not afraid of God. He doesn't even want to keep him out of the conversation. In fact, he wants to invite him in. Satan doesn't have a problem with your light shining if, when your light shines, you take the glory. If you do something great and you're like, that's right, I did it. Look at that. Yep, I did it. Satan's going to be like, you keep working for Jesus and taking all the credit. I'm all right with that, because that's not doing anything for the kingdom. All that's doing is making people think, man, I wish I was like you. But it's not about you. Let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works. Oh, well, if they're going to see my good works, I better be doing good works. It didn't just say good works would happen around me. I got to be doing it. What I loved about these presentations, these honorings that happened tonight, these are people who are doing good works, and they're not doing it for their glory. Every one of them, when they came up here, had a little look on their face like, you're giving me an award? Why? Right? Those are people who are doing good works, not for themselves. Let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. You see, we let our light shine, and it's not about us. And we let it shine so that people will bring themselves into the presence of the light and know Jesus Christ. Isn't that the goal? Is to seek and save. That's why Jesus came. Isn't our goal here in this division to expand the number of people in this room by next year? Think of your neighborhood. Think of the guys you work with. Think of the women that you're raising your kids with. What would it look like to have this place filled with those people and to have them here saying, yeah, I'm here because I knew there was something different about you, because I had to notice you, right? When we look at salt and light, it's different than the world. You will be different than the world. You must be. If you're trying to conform your identity to the world, you are losing your saltiness. You must be different. You guys are going to be different than each other. We talked about that. Unity is not the same. Unity is different people moving towards the same goal. God made you the way he made you so that you could accomplish a task that only you can do. I can't do it. You do it, because that's how he made you, right? it's going to get noticed. Anybody ever put too much salt in your food? You're like, oh, that's a lot. You're going to be noticed. Because when you're salty, you stick out. You're responsible not to lose your saltiness. It's your responsibility to make sure you are making people thirsty for Jesus. If nobody is thirsty around you, you lost your saltiness. You got to figure it out. And I'm going to tell you, the first place you start is here. If you don't have a Bible of your own, this is for everybody in this room. If you don't have a Bible of your own in your language, you need to talk to your Corps officer, because I know the Salvation Army is about getting the Word of God into your hands. But when you get it, it is not a coaster. It is not a paperweight. It is not a filing cabinet. It is a book that you read and becomes part of your daily life. Even if all you can do is read one verse because somebody told you to memorize it and opened it up and highlighted it, and you can point to it and say, I read it. Praise Jesus, start there. Because if not, you will lose your saltiness. You need to create thirst, and you need to know that you are needed. I believe Satan's greatest attack is to try to tell the people of God of every age, oh, you're too young. You're too old. You're not needed. You know what? People don't really need to hear from you because you're the same age as their mom. There's an excuse for every one of you not to be in ministry. And I'm going to tell you right now, those are all lies. Because nowhere in that Bible does it say, and then retire from ministry. And wait till you age into ministry. And wait till life is not busy and then be in ministry. It is not there. Nobody would ever be in ministry if any one of those was there. You are in ministry, whether you are an officer, a kid, a soldier, or just someone who shows up every Sunday. You're part of the ministry. Please hear me. You are needed. You are needed. You are needed. At no point let Satan say, I can't believe God would love you. Don't let Satan lie to you and tell you your itty bitty little dinky light is not important to this world. Because it is. Whether you became a Christian yesterday or you've been one for 78 years, your light is needed by God to complete the mission and purpose of God on this earth. Because you are the salt and you are the light. I know we just had a dance party in here, and this is going to change it a little bit. But maybe not. Maybe some of you need to dance your way up here. And you need to sit down with the Lord and you need to say, you know what, God, I don't feel needed. Maybe you need to dance up here and say, you know what, I have been the decay. I'm not stopping it. I need help to stop the decay in my family. I need to break the generational curses that I have been believing are part of me. I need to get my family out of poverty and brokenness of the spirit and the soul. I need to get myself. We're going to straight up have the band play. Band, come on up. We're going to have them play some worship music. This down here, I'm now going to say this is holy ground. You was danced upon. David danced. It's been danced upon. Now it needs to be prayed upon. If you came here this weekend and you don't know Jesus, you are any age. I don't care if you're 5 or you're 95. If you don't know Jesus, the first thing I want you to do is say, okay, God, I have enough faith that my little light is important and you believe in me. And you get yourself out of that seat, you grab a friend, you grab an officer, and you come down and say, I need to know Jesus, because you got to work that out before we leave here tomorrow. You can go home changed with the power of eternity in your pocket. If you know Jesus, but you lost your saltiness, it's time to walk down here and pray. And ask God to make you as salty can be, so that when you walk in spaces, people thirst for him. Maybe you are someone who has come to Jesus, but you're using all your good works for your glory. You want the awards, you want the moments, you want that. I ask that you come down here and say, God, it's for your glory, not mine. And I don't ask you to come down because I need to see it, because in a minute I'm going to leave the stage. I don't need to see it. But as humans, we need to look back on this moment and remember there was a time I felt a stirring in my heart, and I got up and I used my feet and I walked and I prayed. And we need that so that in 3 weeks from now, when Satan says that weekend meant nothing, those words that lady spoke meant nothing, you can say, oh no, I felt a stirring in my heart and I walked, Satan. And when I did it, I felt the presence of Jesus, because that stirring in your heart is the very presence of Jesus, identifying you as salt and as light. Do not stay in your seat if the Lord is working on your heart. There is no shame in this place to say, the King of the universe is speaking to me. The teenagers heard it from me this morning. He speaks in a small, still voice. And he may be speaking with you tonight. And this is your time to work it out. Officers, if your people come forward, come and pray with them, please. Children, if you come, bring your mama and pray with her, or your daddy, or your officer, or your grandma if she's here. Because prayer is led by every person in every generation. I'm going to start a prayer and then I'm going to walk off this stage before I finish it so you have the chance to do it. Baby Jesus, dear baby Jesus, we thank you that you are a God who desires for us to shine our lights. But sometimes it is hard, and I feel dark, and I feel unsalty. And I know these people feel that as well. And so, Lord, I pray over the people in this room of every generation that they would feel you speaking to them, reminding them that you have created them with an identity that has a purpose for greater things, an eternal purpose. And Lord, I pray that they would press into that purpose, that they would know you, the creator of the universe, have called them by name and given them a purpose, and that you love them and you see them and you are so grateful they are here. Take time to pray